Facebook, you can start sharing if you want your screen. So I want to welcome everyone to week 23 of Existentials. Tonight's presentation, been excited about for most of the season. Our presenter tonight is not our traditional Christmas lighting guy, but he is from the Halloween side of the world. So Dr. Ramsey, aka DrTerrorEyes, has been doing a home haunt at his house for over 40 years now. He's very active in the Halloween communities, presented at a lot of different conferences. And so I'm really excited to have him here tonight to share with us some of the basics of setting up a home haunt. So that is my intro. Dr. Ramsey, you ready?
That's right, Ed. Let's kick it off.
Okay. So just one other thing is, if you have questions, feel free to put them in chat, and then at the end of the presentation, he'll be able to address them. So you've got to hit share at the bottom middle to share your screen.
One more time.
Yep. Okay. You're sharing.
Hold on a second. Share. Hey, everybody. Ed, hey, thanks for inviting me. So tonight, I'm coming at you as the home haunter and not as the Christmas guy, because Halloween is my thing. And if you're a home haunter like me, or have ambitions to become a home haunter and be that house on the block where everybody points at Halloween, not just at Christmas, then this might be the place to be tonight. Well, you might be a haunter if you've got lots of black clothing, or if you've ever taken off the skin on your hand with hot glue. Yeah, I've done that a couple times. If you've made more than 3 trips to Home Depot in a day, yeah, I've done that. I don't know how many cans of great foam have actually, the great stuff foam have ruined my clothing, probably about 10 over the last 10 years. And I've gone to work with raid-stained hands, possibly you have too. And I, like maybe some of you, start planning Halloween the next day. And yes, I'm a dumpster diver. Hey, a real home haunter is someone who goes around looking for stuff to grab for next year's haunt. And this isn't my garage, so don't point fingers, but there are some people and yeah, I've got about 3 car spaces full of stuff that hoard, and they have lots of Halloween goodies. And the home haunter, we all have our little things we do, and it's interesting because I can talk to anyone that's been a home haunter and understand it. And I love sharing what I do. Now, what have I been doing? Well, for the last 45 years, I've had a home haunt, I've had a commercial haunt, And I also have produced a Southeast United States Halloween convention called CHEC. And that was last year, actually, last July. Now, I'm a presenter and instructor at every convention in the United States, actually one in Canada also. And I help people learn how to make props, how to create their own haunt at their house. And I've actually won some awards with some of my props and my costume. So I'll be happy to chat with anybody afterward, or just send me an email, and I will be happy to talk with you about props and ideas. Off the subject, I'm an eye doctor by trade. That's where the TerrorEyes comes in, kind of. And I'm a 32nd degree Freemason, for those of you who might know of Freemasonry. So here's a picture of me in costume. This is one of the costumes that I've won some awards with over the last few years. It has LED lighting in it. It has lights in the eyes, lights on the belt. I have a built-in microphone, because when I have that mask on, which is a real gas mask, I think from Poland, you can't hear me talk. So I built and I've incorporated into a glow wire that comes out of the front, and inside my belt there in the front buckle is a speaker, and I have my DrTerrorEyes voice. I don't change my voice electronically. I put on the heavy voice. Anyway. So why am I here today with you folks? Well, I want to share some ideas about helping you with your haunt. You might be a beginner or someone who's got some advanced experience over the years. I may have a couple ideas you hadn't thought of. I'll give you some examples. I'll give you lots of resources. There is a handout that Ed has put together for me somewhere online with a link. And hopefully I'll be able to save you time and money, because after all these years, yeah, I've learned to save some time and money and share those ideas. So in your handout, you'll get ideas on some props, some sites, some great vendors. That's one of my 10-foot tall by 10 feet wide. I call him a pumpkin king. People call him different things in the picture there. There's trade show lists. There's support groups in the handout. I mean, everything that you need is in the handout. I'll just go over some of these things superficially here. And just remember, when you're making your home haunt or any haunt, you want to affect someone's senses. And the first thing you got to remember is they have in their mind already some fearful ideas and thoughts without even seeing your place, what's going on inside there. Then you want to work on all their senses. You've got props, you've got lighting, you got fog, all these great, wonderful things to bring them into the scene. And then you can enhance that by having scents and sounds and music. And we'll talk about that. So let's talk a little bit about the outside of your house, outside your yard. There are things that I have found that people like to do that's pretty common, and that's putting up wooden boarding, the zombie boarding across your windows. And I've used real wood, I've used foam, I've carved foam, I've engraved it, and I realized I've got a list every year of about 16 to 20 things I want to accomplish for that year. And it comes down from 3 months down to 2 weeks, and I've only got half of them done. And one of them one year was I wanted to put up boarding all around the house. So I said, I got to do something. Went over to Home Depot or Lowe's, found this medium density fiber board that's 4x8, and you can cut it with a circular saw in like nothing, like butter. You know, and I just shoved the ends in the picture here under the edges of plastic shutters we had on the house, and I was done in an hour from start to finish, cutting, putting them up all around the house, and having them there. Hey, save me time versus cutting and foam and wood. Save time. Along with your windows, one of the things you can use is a great product from Atmosphere Effects. Atmosphere Effects is ubiquitous now in the Halloween industry. Everybody knows about them. You see their stuff everywhere. And they've been around for years, and their stuff gets better and better every year. And one of the examples is, if I can get my, here we go. So what's the great thing about that is I had that running projected onto a very thin Walmart sheer curtain. Cost me, I think, $1.99. It covered a whole big window that was like 8 by 10, and it was up high enough in the front yard that people wouldn't be dead in line with the projector that was on the ground coming upward. But people were stopping and looking, going, "Oh my God, those actors are sitting in there doing this over and over." Little did they realize actors were free. They were just doing their little thing in a digital video that was projecting on the screen. Very simple, easy to use, and you can do those in all the windows in your house. And there's so many different ones from different companies, and those are listed in your handout. This number 2 lighting thing, it probably you guys will appreciate a lot. And I'll go into this only because it's just so phenomenal. Rob Brown put this thing up, the skull and bone lighting, probably 15 years ago. And he is a computer animator and graphic artist and does things for movies and games. He pulled this thing down, and then I called him up and I said, "Can you put it back up?" And he put it up, and he pulled it back down a couple years ago. And I finally said, "Can you do something for me? Because it is the Bible when it comes to yard lighting. It's computer animation generated kind of images, and it shows you how to layer lighting in your haunt, in your yard." So he finally said to me the other day, "Here, take all the images," and here they are. So I have them all posted in a photo album on Facebook, and there's the link there, and you can watch it there. There's no video, it's just the pictures, and he just did screenshots of this presentation type of website he had with all the instructions. So go to it. You'll learn so much about colors and layers and lighting. And you have to remember, this is back when we had, PAR 38 or whatever lighting in the past that were, hot and used gel lights. Now everything's LED. But the colors and the themes and the idea and the concept that he uses all holds true for layering. All right. It's a good source for you. And LEDs, as we know, are small. I use them in all kinds of props. You can see this little skull box. That's a skull I got from a skull shop. I put it in a basketball display box. Little blue LEDs in the corners, in the front, on the right and the left, and it has a 9-volt battery. And this thing can go anywhere. And I have all kinds of stories about this skull that people just freak out about. And Gantom Lighting, if you're in the lighting industry, you probably know of them. They do lighting for Universal Studios and for Disney, especially the Harry Potter parks. And their newest light, which came out, I guess it was 3 years ago at Transworld, it's a light that's programmable with your phone. You just plug in your smartphone into it and have it powered by your plug and your adapter, and you tell it what to do. You can have it do lightning, you can have it do a flame, you can have it do a red heartbeat. Anything you want. You can totally customize it, and once you unplug it from your phone, it stores that. So as soon as you plug it in, it runs that program, boomity boomity boom. And you can also have it triggered. So one program is running, and you hit a switch, and it turns on a program, and it'll run that program until it's done. It is just a phenomenal product. It's cheap, and it's not all the auto, all the stuff we used to have, all these computerized systems, those are done with. It's all built into the light now. So now you have a light that's about 1.5 inches across and maybe 2 inches long. That's it. And you plug it in, and it's programmed by your smartphone. Love it. I love it. Love it. And this is a quick little thing for eyeballs. If you want to have eyeballs cheap for $20 a pair in a skeleton or in a mask, this is from HauntBots. It's called a Gizmo. I use it in my DrTerrorEyes mask. It has 6 or 7 preset programs, and you just push it, and it'll run through each one, or you can have it set just to stick with one. And what happens is the eyeballs glow in the back, and you can have them blue or green or brown, whatever color eyeballs and lights they use for the combination. Phenomenal product. Love it. And it's so simple to use. For the guys that want to know about skeletons, and all of us kind of know something about skeletons, but not a lot in detail, here's a real quick and dirty. A Blucky is a blown plastic, cheapy skeleton that you can squeeze with your bare hand because it's hollow plastic. It is very, very thin, and you can just take it in your hand and just fold it in half. It's that thin. Barneys are hollow plastic skeletons that are a little better quality, like you'll find at CVS or Target or Walmart at Christmas time. I mean, Christmas time, hello, Halloween time, and they run around $35 thereabouts, up to about 50, depending where you buy them. Costco's got them, and those are pretty good quality skeleton. I use them a lot in my yard. Then there are the better skeletons, the medical qualities and such. Those are solid PVC plastic. A Bucky uses old plastic that has been left over, and they reuse that plastic, melt it down, and use it with pretty good quality. You still see the seams, and it's not the best. It's not virgin material. But when you go to Harvey, which is the ultimate, Harvey is a medical grade skeleton, and Harveys are pure virgin PVC plastic. They've got great detail. They don't have these lines and seams that you see like on the Buckies. And they're a little more expensive, but they are phenomenal in detail. So Skeletons and More is my resource. They've been a sponsor of mine in the past. Just great folks. And there's a YouTube video that kind of shows you a little bit about some of the comparisons. Anyway, just learn about them. If you like skeletons and want to do a bunch of them, here's how you do it. Go online at Skeletons and More, and you can see some of the information. And this is one of my classes I teach. I've taught this one probably all over the United States at all the conventions. I can teach you how to make a whole skeleton or a skull that is no latex, no mess. And this is just drop cloth with a heat gun, wood stain, and I did this probably in about an hour, 45 minutes maybe. And this is just a skull, but I've done whole skeletons. And actually, when I do that class at any of the Halloween conventions, we end up giving away the whole skeleton. It's worth about 180, 200 bucks when it's finally done. And I have 4 to 6 other people usually joining in and helping me make this thing in the whole skeleton. So remember, creating a scene, you want to use fog machines. Everybody loves foggers. Probably everybody out there has bought the $25 Walmart fogger. Yeah, they work. They're good for usually one season for me, maybe 2 if I'm lucky. Then they end up just crapping out. So I ended up, 10 years ago, probably buying a Chauvet let's see, it's the 1300. Now they have the 1301 and I think the 1350. And all these are 20,000 cubic feet per minute. You will bury your front yard, your neighbor's yard, and if you get the right fog, I mean, you'll shut down the traffic, and I've done that before, good or bad. Anyway, so just look at spending a few extra bucks on a better quality fogger that will blow away the smaller ones. And fog juice, and I think Ed, you told me that Tater from Froggies has been on before. So
yep, last year Tater did a whole presentation. Yep.
Yeah. Tater's a great guy. I love Tater. He and I, we at all the conferences we sit and we chat for a minute, and I get my goodies because, well, we'll go into that in just a minute. I give away things when I give away when I do a seminar. I'll give away little items either during or after the course. But fog juice, there is a difference. If you go to that link at the bottom, there's a YouTube video someone did that compared Spirit fog juice, and Spirit Halloween, has their own, to Froggies. Once you see this video, folks, you'll never ever use Spirit again. And the price is almost the same for the both of them, but there's such a huge difference. And Froggies has such a selection. They've got the bog fog, the chilling fog, they've got haze, they've got everything. Just a word to the wise, just watch that video and get blown away. I learned so much just watching that video. I like low fog, probably because here in Florida, we can get fog chillers made pretty easily because we all use ice chests when we go and do things outside. And there's humidity in the air, so there's a lot of hang time with these type of fogs. I make fog chillers. You can buy a fog chiller. The one that's on in the picture here, that's one like that I make. I actually have a YouTube video on my YouTube channel that shows how to make one in the past. It's pretty simple. It costs you 25 bucks, I think, to make it or something. And to disperse the fog, I use 4-inch sewer pipe, that corrugated pipe, and some of them already have holes in them. So if you stretch out 50 feet of this stuff and hide them behind your tombstones or in your yard around bushes, and when that bad boy kicks in, that Chauvet unit with the 20,000 cubic feet, it'll just fog up everything. It's a great effect. And the low fog is what most people like because it'll hang on the ground longer before it dissipates into the air. And that has to be chilled to do that. Again, let's affect the sound, the senses. Okay. If you want to do sound, there's so many places you can put speakers, and nowadays you can get these little USB thumb drives and systems that you can have everything built in, the speaker, the MP3 player, everything all built in. So you shove in a thumb drive, hide it in a corner, and there's your sound for that room. And Midnight Syndicate, I lost track. I've got probably 15 of their CDs. And now you download this stuff, but there's more than just Midnight Syndicate. But they've been around the longest. They've been around making all this all these sounds, and the information's online. Midnight Syndicate, there would be one of the first choices I'd look at, and there are other companies now that have come along with more upbeat and just different sounds than Midnight Syndicate. So just a word to the wise. But use sound throughout, graveyard, everywhere. Here's something for you. Ready?
Mommy? Daddy? Where are you? A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Is anybody there? Mommy? Daddy? I can't see you. Anybody there?
Okay, so y'all have probably heard some of that. This was a custom bit put together, and I'll be glad to share it with anybody. It was for that scene. My sister had passed away years ago. Her name was Carol Ann, and that was a tombstone I put together in about 20 minutes out of a piece of foam I had left over. I just carved it up quickly. Had a teddy bear with glowing eyes. Had that little tricycle that actually had a motor under it, so the wheel would turn slowly. That was the squeaky wheel you would hear. That was the rusty wheel, and I had speakers on each side of the tombstone low to the ground, and that effect right there stopped more people walking by my cemetery. My cemetery is about 100 feet long, and it stopped people, and they would just sit there and just listen to this thing. My wife hates it. She's in the other room because she won't listen to this thing. If I start to play it, she's like, "Don't you dare!" She doesn't like that kind of creepiness. Anyway, but think about, again, ways to use sound in your haunt, in your cemetery. There's tons of ways to do that, and I'll be glad to share those with you one-on-one. Just send me an email, and I'll be glad to send you that file. It's professionally done by a buddy of mine, and I'll be happy to share it. All right, moving on. So we've got foam for a moment. I want to talk about tombstones. Everybody has made tombstones, has bought tombstones, and this is pink styrofoam in the picture here that I carved up with a soldering iron and texturized with some great stuff foam. But the foam boards don't just come in 1 and 1.5 inches. They come in 2, 2.5. They come in all these different sizes. And actually, there is 5-inch roofing foam you can get from a roofing guy. These are these 4x8 sheets that are thick. It's not the smooth kind when they get that thick. like there is the extruded foam in the picture here that's smooth. But all these foam boards you can glue together and then carve them if you don't want to have one big thick foam board that you're going to use to make a tombstone. So I'll go over some examples of tombstones in a second here. But extruded polystyrene is that smooth blue or pink foam board, in case you didn't know. So when you have that tombstone that you want to make and you have foam board, these are some of the tools. This is probably the #1 in the Halloween industry, Hot Wire Foam Factory. And they have tools that cut through the stuff like butter. And you just turn these things on and it just is super, super hot. I can't remember how many, 750 degrees, I think, something like that. And you just cut right through the foam. And once you lay out your cemetery tombstone and cut it, that is the biggest chore, but it's out of the way very easily with these tools. Again, Hot Wire Foam Factory. So here's some examples. John Nilsson is in the Florida Haunters, which I'm the administrator, co-administrator actually, for Florida Haunters, which was started by other folks here years ago before I got into this here in the area about 12 years ago. And John is a member, and this is I think it's 3 feet tall and like 5 feet long, or almost 6 feet long. This is all carved foam that John did. Phenomenal tombstone. It's got lights in it and things, I think, on the ends there. No, actually, those are Christmas ornaments on the end. There's your Christmas right there. Those 4 little posts on the end are actually inverted Christmas ornaments, and they put monster mud on top of those. Monster mud, in case you didn't know, is a great product. It's just simply, you get a 5-gallon bucket of drywall mud, put a gallon of flat black paint in there, mix them together, and then you coat material with it, and you can take a cloth, form it over something, let it dry, and you have this hardened sculpture. And you can put it over the tombstones, anything that you want to have look gray and like stone. The only thing is, it is not watertight. You do have to seal it with something like dry lock, varnish, or polyurethane. So here's some monster mud examples. This is my reaper. He's about 5.5 feet tall himself, and he's on top of a tombstone in the picture on the right. And that's just cloth dipped in monster mud and draped over pieces of furring strips and PVC and chicken wire. And he has one of those little torch bowls in his hands, and it blows and such. Easy to make. I did that probably in probably 2 weekends, and just painted it and then sealed it. Mark Fawcett, who is near Kissimmee at Shingle Creek, this is one of his products. This is a life-size hooded sorrow, and if you look at the feet, the toes, and the hand, how realistic those are, that's because those are life casts from alginate. And you put your hand inside this gooey stuff, it hardens up kind of, then you pour in the plasticky stuff, and it turns into like this epoxy of, I mean, every wrinkle, every fingerprint is in those casts, and then you just paint them to whatever. And that's what he did over top of a chicken wire and I think PVC sculpture here. I think Mark has a Shingle Creek Manor website or Facebook page that shows you how he did all that too. And here's everybody's seen a beloved tombstone. This is mine. It was a bridal dress I picked up at a flea market thing for $5 or I think, and dipped it in great stuff, and then put a skeleton face on it, skeletal hands, and that's supposed to be, you know, just draped over the tombstone. And that whole box is nothing but foam board and 2x4s, and it weighs almost nothing. When you do a scene for Halloween, one of the things you need to remember is how things looked in movies. Oftentimes you see cobwebs, and a lot of people forget about those, or they'll get the really cheap, you know, the $1.99 or the 99-cent ones from Walmart or Dollar Tree, and those are kind of a mess. This hot glue stick Webster gun is so easy to use. You get an air compressor, you pop it on one end, you set the PSI around 40 to 60, and you shove a hot glue stick in there and run the air, and it blows out this thin fiber. of like thread in the air, and it lands on whatever you want, like a few feet away, like 4 to 10 feet away. And that's how you make cobwebs in the movies. And you can do that at your haunt, inside, outside, and it cleans right up easily. It doesn't really stick. It comes right off. And by the time you get a whole area done, and then when you go to clean it up, in the end, it's the size of about an almond or a walnut. All this stuff you've blown out. It's just phenomenal. So think about that. They sell webcaster guns everywhere at Halloween time. Pneumatic props I'll talk about just for a moment. They are dangerous, so you need some know-how. And Fright Props has the biggest selection of all the gear you need to make a pneumatic prop safely. And they have instructions, and you can get a free catalog. Just call them up and ask them. It just makes things so much more sensible when you look at the information they provide on how to make something that jumps and scares people. So here's one of my props, a monster in a box, and it's pneumatic, and you trigger it with an infrared. Okay, and that is simply pallet wood around 2x4 framing. That box is about almost 48 inches high, I think 22 inches deep, and it has inside of it a furry, across the middle of it, this brown fur with LED lights from below inside that shine on it. So as it's rocking and rolling, the fur is moving, and it has the speakers built into it, has a fogger into it also, and it leaps about 3 inches forward. And I had to finally put a hinge on the front of it, because when you do these things and they hop and they leap, they're so powerful that they'll actually make the box scoot forward every time. So I had to put a hinge on the very front to stop it from leaping off the wood eventually. Anyway, that was fun. Learning experience. Hey, I'm saving you time and money. Put a hinge on the front. Water is part of what I like also, when I can apply it into a scene. And I created this water pump prop, Lizzie Borden obviously, but I put holes, and on the back side is a clear plastic tray, and on the back there's a pump that goes all the way down and pushes through a tube up to the tray, the red water. And that's a still photo of it. But what I did was I kept trying to find something that wouldn't clog up the filter in the pump and would keep the water red. This is what you get, folks. Party pool. You buy it online. I think it's like $10, a little plastic container here. But that stuff is so red. It only takes about a capful to make it that deep red. Maybe 2 capfuls if you really want to go overboard, to make a couple gallons of water, because this whole bottle will do like 30,000 gallons, I think. Our pool did it one year. I did it for Halloween. I just threw a bunch of it in there, and it'll stay in your hands because you have to wear gloves when it's coming right out of the bottle. It is that intense, but it's made for pools. But you can use it in any kind of water source you have. So one more thing I did for this. This is Great Stuff foam over top of an old fire pit, and I put these skulls together with hot glue, and then run a little pump in the middle with a little hose in the top, and you see the water coming out of the top skull spilling over. This is my bloody bird bath, and that stands about 3 feet, 3.5 feet tall, and about 3 feet wide. So let's not forget about smell. We talked about froggies earlier. They are the bomb. These guys have got more stinky stuff than I've ever seen. Tater, when he sees me give this seminar at a convention, he loves to shout out, "Get the slaughterhouse!" Slaughterhouse is the rotten smelling flesh smell that will freak everybody out. And the decaying rot, yeah, okay, but they've got mold, they've got dirt, So when someone goes through your haunt or your yard anywhere, put the sprays on you as a cologne on your costume or on props. And I've got people that walk by a prop and will smell. Even the door jamb, spray it on the door jamb. Get a piece of cloth and stick it behind the edge of the door jamb and just soak it a little bit with these kind of sprays. And they're not expensive at all, and they last forever. And you can add that extra little realism to someone subconsciously. Okay. I had to do this because I'm an eye doctor. You know, one of the things that we sometimes forget about is that little eye-to-eye contact that can freak people out, like the clown here. So they make prescription and non-prescription contact lenses. Exotic Lenses is one of the companies I've been working with the longest. They use the same laboratory as I do when I order contact lenses for my patients in our eye care practice. So they're FDA approved. There's nothing wrong with them. They do great. There's a lot of lenses out there, though, folks, that are illegal. They're from China. They're from Korea, other countries that are not FDA cleared. And you've got to be careful about that. Okay. And just for anyone that wears contact lenses, this is what I tell patients all day long. Get BioTrue solution. It's probably the best on the market. It moistens your contacts 16 hours a day. And I use it myself. And I tell anyone that wears contact lenses, use that solution. It's nothing better. I even rinse my eyes with it out in my workshop. And Bausch & Lomb does make that now. And this is a fun little thing. Fright Light carries it. Fright Light is the product. Fright Props carries it, and it's worn around your neck and has a little light the size of a lipstick tube that you have a hand control over in your hand, and you push it, and it turns the light on your face. And there's different colors. They've got UV, red, green. It's a great way to have a portable light source for someone in a dark room to walk up to someone and hit that light. Boom, and it lights them up like that. And Fright Prop sells that. So go to your handout. There's tons of sites. Everything is in there that we talked about and so much more. I just want you guys to have all the information you could ever need. This is one of the premier places for information that's been around, and it's been categorized and it's been archived, and you can look up a skeleton birthday cakes for Halloween. I mean, just weird things, and or costume ideas, and you can search these things. When you join up, it's free. I believe Spirit Halloween now owns that website. Larry McKenzie used to own it, and I think 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, he sold it to Spirit Halloween. But it is your ultimate source for information on making props, pictures, resources. Go there. Here's some quick superstars in the Halloween industry. Tara and Tara now is moved to Texas. This is her haunt the year before she left, and you see the hellhound there. She made that out of foam, and she made all these props. Erin actually changed from pirate theme this next year to something else, but she had a great home haunt. Garage of Evil, great folks. They tell you how to make all kinds of props. Scott Stalloween, he's the paper mache king. He actually has classes, I think, at his house, teaches you how to make things. Bill, Spooky Blue, he's got a great, if you just Google up Spooky Blue, you'll see how to make all these things that he's done in the past. Great resource. Davis Graveyard. Davises are just phenomenal people. That's Chris and Jeff. That's one of their props. And then you see the cobwebs that are blown on that thing from a cobweb gun. Alan Hops, everybody knows Alan, I think, if you're into Halloween. Alan has YouTube videos. He's got classes. He's got one-on-one trainings sessions in Texas. He had one recently or has one coming up. Pumpkin Rot just makes the freakiest skeletons and creepy things. Just to go cheap, I have a company here locally. When I have my haunt, I put together these guys. They drop 1,400-pound real burial vaults in my yard, and I build a cemetery around that. And they do that every year when I ask them to. And that's my Pumpkin King guy I showed you earlier and coming on. And there he is, daytime. And hearses, if you can get someone to loan a hearse for your cemetery, hey, find someone that can do that. Sometimes they don't want to have their hearse out driving around, but they will put it like behind your cemetery fencing in your yard. That happened with me. Caskets, I called a local funeral parlor, and they gave me that casket for the night for a Halloween party, and I think is what I use that for. Stirring witch, this is one prop I made that is about 5.5 feet tall. She cackles, she stirs, she's got smoke, and I'll see if I have a video of her here. Let's see if it runs. There we go. And I have wood underneath her with the little glowing ember lights. And that is a 55 gallon garbage pail with paper mache all around it and chicken wire. So that's a very large and heavy cauldron. I found an organ given away, and it was white, and I turned it into a Halloween prop. There you go. I mean, stuff is free. Check on Craigslist, folks. This is a Frankenstein lab I put together with some electronics. And you folks may have. So that is a real Jacob's ladder I put together. I got a 15,000 volt transformer from a buddy of mine and made that whole scene. Dangerous, but I had to put a PVC pipe around it so people wouldn't get killed. That's another story. Anyway, there's my electric chair I made. It's kind of modeled after the one they use here in Florida. It rumbles, shakes, has lights. When I turn it on the big throw switch, it does all these things. And it's just 2x4 wood and I think 4x4, and it does all kinds of fun stuff. And these are my favorite props, just small little ones. I make these little tiny props sometimes just because I have time to kill. So you don't have to know anything about electronics, nothing about lighting, nothing about anything pneumatic, but you can make something like this. You just get the labels online, get a bottle from Hobby Lobby. There you go. So this is one of my classes I teach, how to make this little potion bottle. It's one of my favorite props, and it is nothing to it. It's just 3 layers of spray paint, a little burnt sienna paint on there, and spray glue, and there you go. Simple stuff. So questions, Ed? I'll open it up for anyone that has any questions that I can answer quickly.
Okay, so there are a couple questions in chat. I'm going to just start from the bottom and go back up. Can Dr. TerrorEyes tell us a bit about the Southeast Haunters Convention? When and where is next year's? What are the seminars like, etc.? So,
okay. Last year I put together CHEC because I had done for 9 years prior to that a get-together of just the Florida Haunters, and I wanted to do something bigger. So I modeled it after the national conventions I go to all around the country, Scare LA or Midwest Haunters Convention. But the venue only allowed me to do certain seminars open. Next year, I want to have it in 2020 closer to Orlando at a larger, like a 40,000 square foot venue, and have individual classrooms you can pay to go into versus one fee to go to whatever you can. Now we can target you, so you can go say, okay, I want to learn about anything. I mean, being a foam carving class or a mask making class, electronics class, lighting class, and I'm trying to figure out how to have a group of sessions so you can stay in the same room and learn all about lighting up a prop and then lighting up a costume, you know, just so you get into these little tracks. I'm looking at next year, hopefully July or earlier, and I've got 2 venues, and actually my wife gave me the name of another one the other day. I'm going to be talking with. So just to answer the question, it's going to be a little bit of everything. If you go into any other national Halloween conventions, it'll be very similar. You'll be able to learn how to make things. And I love teaching classes on how to make things. That's one of my favorite things to do. And then get an education like this and learn how to take your haunt at home and maybe take it to becoming a fundraiser, a non-profit kind of haunt where people bring in food like Jason Fields does in Cape Coral with his Terror on 20th.
Yep. And I probably have some locations to offer up to you after the call. So there was, just to let everybody know, in chat, I put the link to the Google Drive for the handout. So please make sure you download and do that. Question, do black light spotlights work well with trying to make things glow?
Black lights, come in two forms. They're the fluorescent tubes everybody has, and now the LEDs. LEDs work well, but you've got to get quality LEDs. Fluorescent light tubes, they're all pretty much the same, but LEDs, there are some variations in the qualities and also the amount of brightness you get out of them. But they do work. They're actually, if you go online to Fright Props, which I showed you earlier, Fright Props has got the full run of sizes. They can do a small area in a room, or they can do a wall or a whole yard. You can wash with as many, as large a panel as you want. I've seen panels that are 2 by 2. I've seen ones that are 1 by 1, feet we're talking about, or round ones. And yes, you can use all of those to give that effect. So yes, they do work.
Yeah, one of the guys on the call here actually puts a tarp kind of covering around his house and has lights on it, and it works great. So on tombstones, how do you make them stand up straight and not blow away? Do you use like rebar, or how do you basically secure the foam tombstones?
Good question. That's a common problem, especially when the storms start coming through and your stuff starts blowing over. What I do is I hot glue on the back of my tombstone. Like if I use a solid two-piece piece of a 2-inch piece of foam, what I'll do is I'll hot glue a PVC pipe that might be 18 inches long on the back of a 2-foot tall tombstone. I'll do 2 of them parallel on the back side, and then I will make sure that's secured with lots of hot glue. Then I'll take 2 rebars, put them in the ground, and slide them over top. Now, other people have used weights and used wood on the backside, like an L-shaped piece of wood, and that works too. But rebar, I found, just gives you support all the way up, and it works very easy. You can just slide it on top when you want to be done for the night and bring them inside, because people will rip off stuff too. That's another problem we've got. People love to steal stuff, but slide it right over top, and you're good to go. That's how I do it.
How do you build moving skeletons with legs and arms? Do you use wiper motor, reindeer motors? Best way to make DMX props, and how to light the props? Floods? Question mark.
So with the first part of the question, you asked how to make them move. Deer armatures or deer motors or
Wiper motors.
wiper motors.
Yeah.
The answer is yes to both. You can use both. And again, Fright Props sells those, and Fright Props shows you how to use those. And there's so many ways you can do a skeleton. Now, for example, what's his Aunt Patron. Actually, I'll take a step back. If you're in Florida, you can join Florida Haunters on Facebook, and that gives you a bunch of guys right there that do some phenomenal props here in Florida. I mean, prize-winning kind of stuff. But you can go online and look at, for example, there's one skeleton that is the digging skeleton, where you have a shovel and he's got a foot on the shovel and he's pulling back and forth like he's digging the hole to put the casket in the ground.
Mhm.
And that's just using one motor to do all that action. Like the witch I had in my pot, that was one motor I had doing all that. It makes her steer, the head turn, all those things. So yes, you can use motors, and they are just, if you go online and find resources like the Halloween forum and just type in skeletons, deer motors, you'll find all this, and it'll show you how other people put them together. If there's the skeleton skull popper tombstone, which has a skull that pops out on one side, goes up in the air, and pops down the other side, like there's a skeleton peeping from behind a tombstone. That uses a wiper motor, and it goes round and around and around, and you just adjust the you have wood and PVC and screws and eye screws, and there's ways to do all that, and it's shown online. I won't get into all that right here because it's kind of lengthy, but those motors are used to make the skeletons and tombstones move. And lighting wise, it depends on the effect you want. If you want to have a highlighted prop in your cemetery, let's say, well, you want a wash light, and that's when it goes back to Rob Brown's course I showed you initially. If you look at that, it all makes sense. You use a wash light, like a blue light, to light up the area. Then you use a yellow or an orangish yellow light, or even a purple, to even highlight certain things on the face, on the prop, so that you have those LEDs are so small. I mean, my God, I used to use the big can lights, those big monstrous ones that were so flippin' hot you burn your hands, and you have
Mhm.
the gel sheet. Those are a thing of the past. Everyone uses LEDs now, and you can buy them cheap. You can buy them for $5 a piece online now. But the newest one that I tell everybody about is the one from Gantom, the color piano. If you look at it online, go to Gantom and look at color piano, you'll see how easy. There's YouTube videos on how to program, and they show you how to do it. It is that simple, and that light does anything you want. It can be any light color at any time, doing strobing. It can dim in and out, and it's just one LED, and you get a whole bank of them, and you're using no power. So I mean, I go back to the story all the time. 10 years ago, I was blowing fuses in my house all the time because I had so many props going, so many of those big monstrous lights going. I'd blow fuses, and people are like, your prop's not moving anymore, or I can't see that one. And I'd have to go back inside, reset the breakers. And I had one guy just helping me all night, just reset breakers when something would blow. Now you have one wire, one plug, and then you just branch off of that, and you can have 12 LEDs running, and you're sucking down, the power of like 160-watt bulb.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense. And I would use, here's what I tell people to do. Go online, just Google up someone's front yard, haunt in the last 2 years. You'll see LEDs are just ubiquitous now. Everyone's got
Yeah.
LED lights.
What's really funny is the same parallel with Christmas folks. So,
Sure.
Probably pixels now is what most of the folks in this group is into. And,
Yeah.
over 5 years ago, everybody was using incandescents and maybe
Yep.
some LEDs, and actually would add sub panels to their electrical so they could power all of the lights. And we've all now moved to LEDs. So, very similar to everything you've just said. So the final question here, and I don't know if anybody else wants to ask anything, and you can feel free to unmute yourself if you're on the call and you didn't put on chat. But this one person asking, what colors do you recommend for Halloween lighting? And I think you already kind of covered that, in the last one. But I don't know if you want to
Sure.
bring up anything on that. Yeah.
Sure, Ed. Yeah, going back to the handout, and again on the first page is Rob Brown's resource, and that I have the pages of. And in that source, you'll see images. He did computer animations, computer graphics of a yard and the ways to layer lighting. And he shows you options and ways to direct lighting. Normally, you use a blue flood to throw shadows and a faint light that people can still maneuver through, but it throws these faint shadows. Like you have a picket fence and you have this these blue LEDs in front of it to throw the picket fence shadowing around, but give lighting to an area. Then you use the yellows and reds for deeper, like if you want to have a lantern, you would use a yellow or an orangey yellow. When you have a prop, you'd want to use yellow, and then you'd also want to use purple. I had some pin spots, those nice bright lights I could beam across 100 feet. But now with LEDs, you don't have to do all this stuff. It's so much simpler. You guys do that. I mean, it's the same thing for Christmas as Halloween. You guys already have the money invested. It's like, why not use it?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
Anything? Anybody else has any more questions? Feel free to unmute yourself. I don't see anything else in chat, so I'm going to have one last final call before we close out the presentation.
The contact lenses, you wear them for one night. Do you have to take care and feeding to store them for the other 364 days?
Yeah. So what happens is you want to get a solution that will let you keep the lenses in, for a few months. And in reality is once you take them out and clean them like you're supposed to and have a clean case, you store them over there nice and tight and put them in your bathroom somewhere, and you may forget about them a whole year. Well, what I would suggest doing is every few months put a reminder in your phone to change the solution out. One, you make sure that the solution's in there so lenses don't get all dried out and crispy, and then you try to re-soaking them and bringing them back to life. But just having that in there, and you're also checking them for mold or anything else, because there are solutions that shouldn't cause any problems, but there are some. If you get these cheap solutions, or if you get just saline, it grows things. You want to have a multi-purpose disinfecting solution, like the one I mentioned, like BioTrue. And that's what I tell my patients to use all the time. So just remember to change out the solution. And a contact lens, like the one from Exotic Lenses, it's a soft lens that should last you for a few seasons easily. There's no reason that it has to be thrown away after one use. I mean, that's kind of crazy. So if you have a lens and you have your prescription in it, it should last you for several years. Just take care of it. That's all. Don't let it dry out and become a potato chip. I've seen that, because you can't bring them back to life and be comfortable right away. You can do it over the course of a couple of weeks probably, but a lot of people, like Halloween night, they're like, okay, where's those lenses? Oh no, I can't put those lenses on because they're dried out. I forgot. Oh my God, I didn't check them. So just do that.
Any final questions from anybody? Feel free to unmute yourself.
On the handout, I see reference to Robert Brown, but I don't see any content there, like a link or anything.
In the let's see, handout. Let's see, Robert Brown. You mean so in on the handout, number 2A is the how-to. That is the link. See, you'll see this once you go to that link, you'll understand it. Rob,
it didn't work either.
There's a 13 on the last two things that are continued on, so that might be the issue.
Okay.
Add 13.
Thank you.
Because when Rob gave that to me, Rob said he's done putting the stuff online and dealing with it, because I always get back with him. He said, I'll just give it to you. So he gave me just screenshots of all the stuff.
Yeah.
So these are screenshots.
Yeah, just to tell you the hyperlink, it's got a 13 that continues on to the next line. And so probably they're not seeing that link. So be careful on that. So
maybe you ought to just post that link somewhere where people just get it. And But feel free anytime to get a hold of me, folks. I have no problem in answering questions or referring you to people. But this handout should be it. I mean, that's your answer to everything.
Well, I mean, there are a number of Halloween Facebook groups. I know in Christmas we probably have way too many, and Halloween is the same. So, but they're always a great resource and different aspects of Halloween. So I know that there are a lot of performers that are in a lot of the groups. So it's really active around beginning September and so forth, and then. There are a lot of home haunt groups as well. So
probably the most popular Facebook group is Haunters Hangout. There's about 40,000 people there.
Yeah. So makes our little 6,500 seem puny. So, yep. Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much, Dr. Ramsey, Dr. TerrorEyes. We've enjoyed having you on. Learned quite a lot from the presentation, a lot of great ideas. So thank you very much.
Hey.
I'm going to stop the presentation recording here and the Facebook Live stream. Well, I'm going to continue to stream on Facebook Live till after announcements. So are there any announcements? I know there's a Utah Mini. I don't know if anybody's on from the Mountain West group, Jordan or anyone else want to mention the Utah Mini coming up? Don't hear anybody. I'll give you a few seconds.